under the dim fluorescent lights of the Riverdine Diner in the small town of Willow Creek. Amara Jones, a 32-year-old Black American woman, wiped down table number 19 for the third time. The old wooden surface was already gleaming, but she kept scrubbing, as if she could somehow erase the anxieties strangling her heart. The wall clock ticked, the long hand pointing to 10:45 p.m. Amara's hands ached, the thick calluses on her palms rubbing against the rag. Her worn-out sneakers and soles were almost flat, making her heels burn after 12 hours on her feet. The diner was nearly empty, filled only with the sizzling sounds from the kitchen, where Diego, the night cook, was scrubbing pans. "Go home, Amara," Diego shouted from behind the kitchen counter, his deep voice echoing through the grease-stained walls. "This place is cleaner than a hospital already, girl." Amara didn't reply. She stopped scrubbing and pulled a crumpled letter from her apron pocket, its edges frayed from being opened too many times. Her eyes scanned the bold print custody hearing. Malik Jones, July 20th. Just 25 days left. Her heart tightened, as if an invisible hand had wrapped around it. Malik, her 7-year-old boy with the gap-toothed smile, was her entire world. But now he was living with Ethan, Amara's ex-husband, in a luxurious apartment downtown, 50 miles from Willow Creek. Ethan, with his expensive suits and cold smile, had used money and influence to take Malik from her, accusing her of being unfit to raise their son. Amara carefully folded the letter and tucked it back into her pocket. She didn't want Diego to see the tears welling in her eyes. As a single mother, she had grown used to hiding her weakness. But every night when she returned to the rundown apartment on the outskirts of town, the fear of losing Malik forever rose again, like a wave threatening to drown her. Her phone buzzed in her shirt pocket, breaking her train of thought. She pulled it out. The screen lit up with a photo of Malik beaming, holding a strawberry ice cream. Beneath the image was a message from Ethan. "He doesn't ask about you anymore. Don't dream of beating me in court." The words cut like a knife. Amara gripped the phone, her fingernails digging into her palm. She wanted to scream, to call Ethan and tell him Malik was her son, that she would do anything to bring him back. But she knew he would only laugh, just as he did when the court temporarily gave him custody 3 months ago, claiming she was financially unstable. Amara, earning $12 an hour as a waitress and picking up shifts on a small vegetable plot inherited from her grandmother, was no match for Ethan, a successful businessman with a fleet of high-priced lawyers. She put the phone away and returned to wiping the table, though no speck of dirt was left. The air smelled of stale coffee and fried oil, mingling with the slow whirl of the ceiling fan overhead. Amara remembered the nights Malik would fall asleep beside her, clutching his teddy bear, whispering, "Mom, can we make apple pie tomorrow?" Now all she had were the photos in the shoebox under her bed. Malik at 2, face smeared with mashed potatoes. Malik at 4, asleep on the couch. Malik at 5, wearing his school uniform on his first day. Each picture was a memory she clung to, afraid that if she let go, Malik would disappear. "Hey, need a ride?" Diego appeared at the kitchen door, untying his apron, his brown eyes soft with concern. "It's almost 11, girl." Amara shook her head. "Thanks. I still have a few things to do." Diego sighed, pulled on his jacket and left through the back door, leaving Amara alone in the diner. She sat on a stool at the counter, her aching legs finally getting a break. The court letter floated back into her thoughts, along with the haunting question, how can I beat Ethan? She had no money for a lawyer or solid evidence proving she was the better parent, but she had her love for Malik, and that, she told herself, had to be enough to fight. The front door chime rang, pulling Amara from her thoughts. She jumped, clutching the rag. A tall man walked in, brushing red dust from his leather boots. He wore a blue plaid shirt and a weathered cowboy hat. His stride was slow but steady. Under the lights, his pale skin stood out, salt and pepper hair visible as he removed his hat. He looked around the empty diner and stopped when his gaze met Amara's. "Sorry," she said, standing up. "We're about to close." "Just coffee," he replied, his voice deep and calm. "Been driving 6 hours from the next county. Need something to keep me awake." Amara hesitated. The diner was already closed, and she wanted to go home and curl up with her memories of Malik. But the man's weary eyes softened her. "All right," she said, walking to the coffee machine. "Take a seat. I'll make it fresh." He sat at the counter, placing his hat down, revealing the lines around his eyes, etched by time and sun. Amara poured the coffee into a mug, her hands slightly trembling, not from exhaustion, but from the strange feeling of being quietly observed. She set the cup in front of him. "Thanks, Amara," he said, reading her name tag. His voice was gentle, yet carried weight, like he truly saw her not just as an anonymous waitress. She nodded, turned away, and started wiping the counter again, avoiding his gaze. The man sipped his coffee slowly, looking out the window where the moonlight lit up the empty parking lot. The silence lingered, broken only by the ticking clock and his steady breaths. After 10 minutes, he stood reaching for his wallet. "How much?" "$3.50. Amara replied. He placed a $20 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." "You don't have to," she said, pushing it back. "I don't need charity." He smiled gently, without arrogance. "It's not charity. Everyone needs a little help sometimes, right?" He put on his hat and nodded. "Good night, Amara." She stood there watching him walk to the door, his tall figure fading into the night. The $20 bill remained on the counter like an unanswered question. Amara picked it up and tucked it into her pocket with the court letter, her mind spinning. Who was that man? Why was he kind to her, a stranger? She didn't know yet, but this moment would change everything. "Hey there, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments, your city, country, or favorite cozy corner. Let's discover Amara's journey together." Amara Jones stood behind the counter of the Riverdine Diner, the fluorescent light casting down on her face, highlighting every weary line. The ticking of the wall clock echoed like a countdown, now striking 10:55 p.m. The town of Willow Creek lay silent in darkness, with only pale moonlight slipping through the windows, illuminating the empty parking lot outside. The $20 bill left behind by the stranger still sat in Amara's apron pocket beside the court letter, a lingering reminder of the strange moment that had just occurred. She didn't understand why his small act of kindness had left her so unsettled, but something in his eyes, deep and sincere, kept replaying in her mind. She picked up a rag and resumed wiping the counter, though it was already spotless. The air was thick with the burnt scent of stale coffee and old frying oil, mingling with the slow churn of the ceiling fan. Amara tried to focus, but her thoughts drifted to Malik, her son. She imagined him asleep in a strange room at Ethan's house, maybe still hugging the teddy bear she once sewed for him. Did Malik still remember the nights they baked apple pie together, when he would babble about wanting to be an artist? Or was Ethan right that Malik was slowly forgetting her? The thought made her chest ache. The front door chime rang again, interrupting her thoughts. Amara, startled, looked up, her hand tightening around the rag. The same man who had left the $20 bill walked back in his dusty leather boots, thudding softly against the wooden floor. He removed his cowboy hat, revealing salt and pepper hair and weathered lines around his eyes, marks of someone who'd seen much sun and time. His pale skin stood out against the night behind him, and though his eyes looked tired, they carried a strange, calm steadiness. "Sorry," he said, his deep voice breaking the silence. "I left my wallet on the counter." Amara glanced down and spotted the worn leather wallet beside the register. She pushed it toward him, keeping her tone neutral. "Here you go." He took it, his calloused fingers brushing over the scuffed leather. "Thank you," he said, but didn't leave immediately. He looked at her as if about to say more, then nodded. "You work here alone this late?" Amara shrugged, not wanting to engage. "Just tonight. The cook just left." She returned to wiping the counter, hoping he would take the hint, but he didn't. Instead, he sat down again at the counter a few stools away and looked out the window. "My name's Nathan," he said without looking at her. "Nathan Harper. I've got a farm in Greenhaven about 30 miles from here. Driving at night like this, coffee's a lifesaver." Amara paused, mid-wipe, surprised that he'd introduced himself. She wasn't used to customers in Willow Creek being this familiar, especially not with her, a black waitress who was often met with wary or indifferent looks. "Amara," she replied, pointing at the name tag on her shirt. "Coffee's going cold. I'll warm it up." "No need," Nathan said with a faint smile. "It's fine. Better than most places I've stopped at." The unexpected compliment threw Amara off. She didn't know how to respond, so she nodded and resumed wiping. But Nathan didn't rush off. He sipped his coffee slowly, eyes scanning the diner, before settling on her hands marked by thick calluses, short worn nails, and a thin silver ring on her fourth finger, a keepsake from her grandmother. "Working this late must be tiring," he said without judgment. "You have family nearby?" The question touched a raw nerve. Amara thought of Malik, the tiny apartment where she lived alone, and the court letter in her pocket. "No," she replied, her voice hoarse. "Just me and my son. But he's not here." Nathan nodded, not prying further, as if he sensed an invisible boundary. "I used to have a daughter," he said, eyes still on the window, where moonlight bathed his old pickup truck. "She liked to draw just like I did as a kid, but I missed my chance to be there for her. Sometimes I wish I could go back and do things differently." Amara looked at him curious, but guarded. His confession carried a deep sadness, but she couldn't understand why he was sharing it with her, a stranger. "I wish I could do things differently too," she blurted, then quickly turned away, afraid she'd said too much. She didn't want Nathan to see her vulnerability, something she'd grown used to hiding behind the polite smile of a waitress. Nathan stood, placing his empty coffee cup down. "Thanks for the coffee, Amara," he said, pulling out his wallet again. This time he left a $10 bill. "For the next cup, if I come back." "You don't have to do that," Amara said, pushing the money back. "I don't take tips like that." He smiled, not arguing. "Consider it an investment in good coffee. Sleep well." He tipped his hat and walked out, his tall frame disappearing into the night. The bell above the door jingled as it closed, leaving Amara with the $10 bill and a strange feeling. She slipped the money into her pocket, beside the court letter and the lingering question about Nathan Harper. Who was he? Why did he look at her like he understood what she was going through? She turned off the counter light, locked the diner door, and stepped outside. The night air was freezing, carrying the scent of dried grass from the nearby fields. Amara looked up at the sky, where the moon shone bright. She thought about Malik, the upcoming hearing, and the strange man who had just stepped into her life. Was Nathan just a passing customer, or would he bring something much greater? She didn't know, but she felt the tiniest flicker of hope for the first time in months, fragile as the moonlight above. Amara's phone buzzed as she walked toward her old bicycle chained to the lamppost. Another message from Ethan. "Malik's asleep. Don't call. You'll only confuse him." Amara clenched her hand, tears welling. She replied anyway, knowing he wouldn't answer. "I'm his mother. You can't take him from me forever." She hit send, then rode home, her heart heavy but more determined than ever. No matter Ethan's power, she would fight for Malik with everything she had. Before dawn had broken, Amara Jones was already standing in the small plot of land on the outskirts of Willow Creek, where she grew tomatoes and green vegetables. The sky was still dark, with only faint streaks of purple stretching along the horizon. Morning dew soaked her worn sneakers, and the smell of damp earth filled her lungs. Amara, a 32-year-old Black American woman, held a wooden hoe in her calloused hands, gripping the handle tightly. Each swing of the hoe was a breath, a silent promise to her son Malik that she would not give up. This piece of land, inherited from her grandmother, was where she planted her hope one day. She would bring Malik home, and they would grow vegetables and bake apple pies together just like they used to. Amara worked in silence, accompanied only by the chirping of sparrows and the hoe hitting soil. Her shoulders ached from the night shift at the Riverdine diner, but she didn't stop. Every tomato row brought her a step closer to the July 20th court hearing, where she would fight to regain custody of Malik from her ex-husband Ethan. Still tucked in her old jacket pocket, the court letter was her only motivation. But deep inside, Amara was afraid. Ethan, with his wealth and legal team, was a wall she didn't know how to break through. All she had was this land, a few $100s in savings, and her love for Malik. But would that be enough? Suddenly the sky darkened as heavy clouds rolled in from the east. A strong wind swept the field, making the young tomato plants tremble. Amara looked up, heart pounding. "Please don't rain today," she whispered, as if pleading with nature. This land wasn't just a source of extra income from selling vegetables at the market. It was a symbol of independence, of her ability to prove in court that she could raise Malik. A storm could destroy everything. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and Amara felt the chill of the first raindrops. She dropped the hoe and ran toward the corner of the plot where she kept plastic tarps in a small shed. The wind tugged at her jacket, sending her hair whipping around her face. Amara grabbed a tarp and tried to cover the tomato rows, but the wind was too strong, tearing the plastic from her hands. "No, don't!" she shouted, her voice breaking in the thunder. The tomato plants she had nurtured for months swayed violently in the storm. Amara dropped to her knees, using her hands to hold down the tarp, but the rain was already soaking through her clothes, making her shiver. "Amara." A deep voice rang out through the wind. She looked up and saw Nathan Harper standing by the wooden fence, his boots caked in red mud, his cowboy hat drenched. The white man from Greenhaven Farm, who had left a tip at the diner last night, was here now, as if stepping out of a dream. "Need help!" he shouted, leaping over the fence with surprising agility. Amara froze, but there was no time to ask why he was there. "Grab that end!" she yelled, pointing to the tarp's edge. Nathan ran over, grabbing the plastic, and together they stretched it over the plants. Rain poured like a waterfall, drenching them both, but they didn't stop. Nathan tied the tarp to wooden stakes, his calloused hands working with the precision of someone familiar with the land. Lightning lit up the sky, but Amara felt an odd sense of strength working beside Nathan, like she wasn't alone. "Are there more tarps?" Nathan asked, rain streaming down his face. Amara nodded and led him to the shed. They grabbed 2 more tarps and covered the remaining rows. The ground turned slippery from the mud, and Amara nearly fell, but Nathan caught her hand and pulled her steady. "Careful," he said, voice full of concern. After 15 minutes of struggle, they had covered most of the crops. Amara panted, her soaked clothes clinging to her body, her hair matted to her forehead. She looked at Nathan, just as soaked, but he only smiled and wiped the rain from his eyes. "That should do it," he said, nodding at the tightly secured tarps. "Your plants will be okay." Amara nodded, still in disbelief at what had just happened. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice nearly lost in the softening rain. "Didn't you say you were driving back to your farm?" Nathan shrugged, putting his cowboy hat back on. "I saw you as I passed by. You were alone with those tarps. I couldn't just keep driving." He looked across the field, where the tomato plant stood firm. This land means a lot to you, doesn't it? Amara stayed silent, surprised that he had noticed. This land wasn't just where she worked. It was where she felt she mattered, where she taught Malik to plant seeds and promised him they'd have everything one day. "It's the only thing I have," she said, her voice rough. "If I lose it, I don't know how to prove I can raise my son." Nathan looked at her, his gaze deep. "You don't need to prove anything," he said. "I see how hard you work. Any mother who fights like that deserves to have her child by her side." His words struck a tender place inside Amara, where she had always doubted herself. She turned away, afraid he'd see the tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, unsure what else to say. The rain had lightened now, with only a few drops falling. The first dim light of dawn began to peek over the horizon, casting a silvery glow across the field. Nathan pointed to the shed. "Go take cover for a while. I must go, but if you need anything, call me." He handed her a small slip of paper, his number scribbled in pen. "Green Haven's not far." Amara took the paper, her fingers cold and trembling. She wanted to ask why he was helping her, a stranger, but the words caught in her throat. Nathan nodded and returned to his truck, leaving Amara in the field. She watched him until the truck's headlights disappeared, the piece of paper in her hand, like a silent promise. She stepped into the shed, sat on an old wooden crate, and opened her phone. A photo of Malik popped up, the boy holding a young tomato plant, beaming. Amara smiled, though her heart still felt heavy. "I'll bring you home, Malik," she whispered. "I promise." But as she tucked Nathan's note into her pocket, she wondered, was this man the light in her storm, or just a passing breeze? The rain had eased, leaving only soft drips tapping against the tin roof of the small shed on the outskirts of Willow Creek. Amara Jones sat on an old wooden crate, her calloused hands wrapped around her for warmth. Her clothes were soaked through her hair, plastered to her forehead, but the land outside, with its rows of tomato plants, safely covered, brought her comfort. Nathan Harper, the white man who had just helped her save the crop from the storm, leaned against the shed's doorway, his drenched cowboy hat tilted askew. The faint light of dawn crept through the cracks, casting a glow on his face and highlighting the deep wrinkles around his eyes, traces of a life that had not been easy. Amara looked at Nathan, torn between gratitude and suspicion. He had shown up at the right time and had been far too kind. And she couldn't help but wonder, why would a stranger like him care about her? A black waitress barely getting by in a small town like this? She clutched the slip of paper with his phone number, still undecided whether to keep it. The rain outside sounded like a soft melody, easing the tension, but not quieting the questions in her mind. "You all right, Nathan?" broke the silence, his voice deep and gentle. He stepped inside the shed, sitting on another crate a few steps away, as if careful not to invade her space. Amara nodded, though she wasn't sure if she truly was. "Thank you," she said, her voice hoarse from the cold. "If it weren't for you, I would have lost the whole crop." Nathan smiled, but there was a trace of sadness in it. "I only did what anyone would do. I could see you were fighting for that land. It's not just dirt to you, is it?" His question struck right at Amara's heart. She looked through a gap in the shed wall, where the tarps glistened in the early morning light. "It belonged to my grandmother," she said, quieting. "She used to grow everything here, tomatoes, beans, squash. She said land was the one thing that would never betray you, as long as you cared for it. When she passed, I promised I'd keep it going for Malik, for my son." Her throat tightened at the mention of Malik, and she paused. Nathan nodded, his eyes soft and free of judgment. "You mentioned the boy last night," he said. "He means a lot to you. I get it." Where is he now? Amara hesitated. She wasn't used to sharing personal matters with strangers, especially not with a white man like Nathan, who seemed to come from another world, a world of sprawling farmland and comfort. But something in his voice, a rare sincerity, made her want to open up. Malik is with his father, she said bitterly. Ethan, my ex-husband. He says I'm unfit to raise him and the court. They believed him. The next hearing is July 20th. I must prove I can give Malik a good life, but... She stopped, shaking her head. I don't know how. Nathan stayed silent, but his eyes never left hers. He removed his hat and rested it on his knee, revealing tousled, salt and pepper hair. I had a daughter once, he said, his voice low, like he was telling a story soaked in sorrow. Emma. She was just 5 when I lost her and her mother in a car crash. Back then, I was too busy running Green Haven, working night and day, to turn it into something big. I thought I was building a future for my family, but I forgot to spend time with them. When they were gone, I realized money and land, none meant anything without the ones you love. Amara's heart ached. She hadn't expected Nathan to carry a pain like that. I'm sorry, she said sincerely. I didn't know. Nathan shrugged, but his eyes remained somber. It's been 20 years, but I still dream about Emma some days, holding crayons, drawing messy pictures. I helped you today, Amara, because I see how hard you are fighting for your son. I don't want you to lose him like I lost Emma. His words were like a warm breeze slipping through the cracks in Amara's soul. She had often wondered whether she was strong enough to face Ethan, a man with wealth and influence. But Nathan with his story made her feel less alone. She thought of Malik and the drawings he left on the kitchen table, houses, sons, and stick figures of the two of them holding hands. Malik loves to draw, she said with a faint smile. He wants to be an artist. I always tell him he can do anything, but sometimes I'm scared I can't give him that chance. You are giving him that chance, Nathan said firmly. Every day you work, every plant you grow, that's the chance. Don't let anyone, not even his father, make you doubt that. Amara looked at him and felt an odd sense of connection. Nathan wasn't just a kind stranger. He understood the grief of losing someone you love, and that made her lower her guard just a little. But she still reminded herself to be cautious. In Willow Creek, kindness often came with strings attached, and she didn't want to owe anyone anything. Why are you doing this, Nathan? She asked directly. You don't know me. Why do you care? Nathan sighed and stood up, stepping into the doorway. He looked out at the field where the morning sun began to dry the tarps. Because I used to be the one standing there thinking I could do it all alone, he said. But I was wrong. People need each other, Amara. You don't have to trust me immediately, but I'm at Green Haven if you need help. Just one call. He turned back to her, offering a sincere look, then put his hat on. I've got to go check on the farm, he said. Hold on to that number, will you? And take care of that land. It's worth more than you think. Amara nodded, her hand tightening around the slip of paper in her pocket. She watched Nathan leave the shed, his tall frame fading into the morning light. The sound of his truck engine roared, then faded away, leaving her alone with her swirling thoughts. She pulled out her phone and opened one of Malik's drawings, a picture with a bright yellow sun and messy handwriting. Mom is number 1. She smiled, and a tear slipped quietly down her cheek. I'm not giving up, son, she whispered. But as she looked at the field, she wondered, could Nathan be someone she could trust? Or was he just a flicker of light in her darkness? The afternoon at the River Diner in Willow Creek was busier than usual. Amara Jones moved quickly between tables, balancing trays of coffee and sandwiches, her worn-out shoes clacking against the wooden floor. The air was filled with the smell of fried oil and toasted bread, mixed with the chatter and laughter of truck drivers taking shelter after the morning rain. Amara, a 32-year-old Black American woman, smiled politely, though her shoulders ached and her heart felt heavy. The court letter in her apron pocket reminded her of the upcoming custody hearing for her son Malik, just 24 days away. Every step, every cup of coffee she poured was part of her effort to prove she was worthy of being Malik's mother. Table 7. Amara Diego. The night cook shouted from the kitchen. She nodded and wiped the sweat from her brow with her hand. Her arms still ached from that morning's struggle with the storm on the land, and the memory of Nathan Harper, the white man who had helped her save her crops, lingered in her mind. His phone number sat folded in her coat pocket, but Amara hadn't called. She wasn't sure she could trust his kindness, especially in a town like Willow Creek, where cautious glances always followed her. The front door chime rang, and Amara looked up. Her heart skipped when Ethan walked in. Her ex-husband, clad in an expensive gray suit and gleaming shoes, looked out of place among the worn wooden booths of Riverdine. His smile was ice cold, and his sharp eyes scanned the diner. "Long time, Amara," he said, sliding onto a counter stool directly before her. "Still pouring coffee for truckers, huh?" Amara clenched the tray in her hands to keep her voice calm. "What do you want, Ethan?" She set the tray down and stood behind the counter, creating a barrier between them. A few customers glanced over, but the diner's noise masked some tension. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low but cutting. "Just wanted to see how you're doing. Malik likes his new stepmom. You know, I called her Mom last week." He smirked, but his eyes were cruel. "Doesn't remember you feeding him mashed potatoes anymore." His words cut like a blade. Amara felt her blood rush, but she bit her lip, refusing to let him see her hurt. She thought of Malik, the drawing he left behind that read, "Mom is number one." "Malik is my son," she said, trembling but firm. "You can't keep him from me forever." Ethan scoffed and leaned back in his chair. "Do you have a chance in court? No money, no lawyer. Just this greasy diner and that weed patch you call a garden. Could you give it up, Amara? You've got nothing." Amara wanted to scream at him, but stayed rooted, gripping the counter's edge. Ethan's words struck her deepest fear, that she wasn't good enough, that Malik might be better off with Ethan and his wealth. She opened her mouth to respond, but the door chime rang again. Nathan Harper stepped inside his boots, muddy, his plaid shirt slightly wrinkled. He paused instantly, sensing the tension. "Coffee, please," Nathan said, sitting at the counter 2 seats from Ethan. His tone was calm, but his gaze never left Ethan. Ethan glanced at Nathan with a mocking smile. New friend, Amara, or just another small-town drifter? Amara didn't respond. She placed a cup of coffee in front of Nathan, her hands slightly shaking, aware of the invisible tension between the two men. Ethan wasn't finished. He grabbed her wrist tightly. "We're not done here," he said through clenched teeth. "You think you can fight me? I've got money, lawyers, everything. You're just... let her go." Nathan's voice cut in low and sharp as a blade. He stood tall and imposing, eyes steely. "Now." Ethan sneered, but released Amara's wrist. He stood too, adjusting his tie. "This isn't your business, cowboy. I'm just offering some friendly advice. Quit, Amara. You're not going to win." He turned to her, voice colder. "Malik doesn't need you anymore." He walked out the door, chime jingling, leaving Amara standing there, breath shaky. She ran into the kitchen, legs almost buckling. Diego, flipping toast, rushed to catch her. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, but Amara only shook her head, tears brimming. "He's going to take Malik," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He's right, Diego. I've got nothing to fight him with." Nathan appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression firm. "You can fight," he said with conviction. "I know a lawyer, Dr. Carter. It's the best in the state. He owes me a favor." Amara wiped her tears and looked at him. "Why are you doing this, Nathan? I have nothing to give you." Nathan stepped closer, pulling a business card from his shirt pocket. "You don't owe me anything," he said, handing her the card. "Call Carter tomorrow morning. Tell him I sent you. You don't have to do this alone, Amara." She took the card, her fingers trembling. Diego glanced at Nathan, then nodded at Amara. "Listen to him, girl. Malik needs you." Amara looked down at the card, her heart torn between doubt and hope. Nathan turned and left money for the coffee on the counter. "I'll be at Green Haven if you need me," he said, then exited the kitchen. Amara stood there, gripping the card, thinking of Malik. She didn't know if Nathan was someone she could trust, but for the first time, she felt like she had a chance, no matter how small, to fight back. Night had fallen over Willow Creek, and the dim streetlights shone softly over the empty road. Amara Jones sat alone in her tiny apartment on the outskirts of town, the light from an old desk lamp casting long shadows across the stained wall. On the table sat the business card of Dr. Carter, the lawyer Nathan Harper had referred her to. Amara, a 32-year-old Black American woman, clutched the card tightly, her fingers brushing over the embossed print. The confrontation with Ethan earlier that day at the Riverdine Diner still haunted her. His threat echoed in her mind. "You've got nothing." But this card, fragile as it was, felt like a glimmer of hope, a chance to fight for Malik, her son. Amara looked at the photo taped to the fridge, Malik, 7 years old, grinning beside a tomato plant on her plot of land, holding a ripe red fruit. The photo was taken last summer, before Ethan used his money and power to take the boy away from her. She remembered Malik's excited voice, "Mom, when I grow up, I'm gonna plant a whole field of tomatoes." His smile was the reason she worked herself to the bone, from night shifts at Riverdine to early mornings digging in the soil. But now, with the custody hearing on July 20th, only 24 days away, she didn't know if her love alone was enough to beat Ethan. She took a deep breath, picked up the phone, and dialed the number on the card. Each ring echoed like a heartbeat. A woman's voice answered Dr. Carter's office. "How can I help you?" Amara swallowed hard, her voice slightly shaky. "This is Amara Jones. Nathan Harper referred me. He said Dr. Carter might be able to help with a custody case." There was a pause, then the woman's tone warmed. "Mr. Harper?" "Yes. Dr. Carter is available tomorrow morning at 9. Can you make it?" Amara glanced at the wall clock, 10:30 p.m. The diner opened at 10. She could manage it. "Yes, I'll be there," she said, heart filled with hope and anxiety. "Thank you." She hung up and sat on the bed, her hands covering her face. She thought of Ethan, how he used the money to hire top lawyers, how the people of Willow Creek had looked at her in court last time with veiled judgment. As a Black single mother, she knew she wasn't just fighting Ethan, she was fighting invisible biases. But she couldn't give up. For Malik, she would do anything. The next morning, Amara stood in front of Dr. Carter's office in downtown Willow Creek, wearing a dark blue dress she had bought from a thrift store. The early breeze sent a chill through her, but she stepped inside, trying to appear confident. The waiting room was sterile, with the faint scent of air freshener. A young receptionist invited her to sit and offered her a glass of water. Amara clutched her bag, which held a photo of Malik and a few documents, pay stubs, receipts from her vegetable sales, anything that could prove she could support her child. Amara Jones. A short man with round glasses stepped out from his office. Dr. Carter, around 50, had a friendly smile, but sharp eyes. "Please come in." She followed him into a tidy room lined with shelves of legal binders. Carter sat behind the desk and gestured for her to sit across from him. "Nathan Harper called me this morning," he said, opening a notebook. "He told me you're fighting for custody of your son. Tell me what's going on." Amara took a deep breath and told him everything. The divorce from Ethan, how he used his finances to gain custody of Malik, the threatening messages, and the confrontation at Riverdine the day before. She pulled out her phone and showed Carter a screenshot of one of Ethan's messages. "Give up. You won't win." She also handed him an old photo of bruises on her arm from when Ethan had lost his temper 3 years ago. "I don't have much evidence," she said, voice growing quiet. "But I'm Malik's mother. I can't lose him." Carter studied the materials, taking notes swiftly. "These messages are useful," he said, "and the photo of the bruises, if authenticated, can be powerful evidence of past abuse. But we'll need more proof of your steady income, Malik's living environment, and any inappropriate behavior by Ethan. What can you show to prove you can raise your son?" Amara pulled a thin stack of papers from her bag, pay stubs from Riverdine receipts, from her produce sales at the market, and photos of her plot of land. "I work at the diner and sell vegetables," she said. "It's not much, but it's enough for Malik. My apartment is small but clean, and there's a good school nearby. Ethan has money, but he doesn't spend time with Malik. He wants to win." Carter nodded, his expression softening. "I understand. Nathan said you're a hard worker, and I believe him. But the court will look at finances and stability. Ethan seems like a tough opponent, but these messages suggest possible harassment. That's where we'll start." Amara felt a flicker of hope, but fear lingered. "I don't have money to hire a lawyer," she admitted, her voice shaking. "Nathan said you owe him, but I don't want charity." Carter smiled. Nathan wasn't wrong. "I owe him big from 10 years ago, when he helped me in a land dispute. You won't have to pay me, Amara, but I'll need your cooperation. Gather more evidence, stay in touch with me, and don't let Ethan wear you down." Amara nodded, tears falling silently. She thought of Malik, his morning runs through the garden, bucket in hand, laughing as he watered the plants. "I'll do whatever you need," she said. "Just bring Malik back to me." Carter stood and handed her a new business card. "Call me if Ethan contacts you. And Amara, Nathan was right about you. You're stronger than you think. We will win this case one step at a time." Amara left the office and stepped into the soft morning sunlight of Willow Creek. She held Carter's card tightly, her heart lighter, but still wary. Ethan wouldn't give up easily, and she knew he was watching. But for the first time, she felt she had allies: Carter, and maybe even Nathan. She opened a photo of Malik on her phone. The boy was drawing a picture of a bright yellow sun. "I can do this, baby," she whispered. But as she walked toward her bicycle, she wondered, would this light be enough to guide her through Ethan's shadow? In the cold office of Dr. Carter in downtown Willow Creek, Amara Jones sat across from the attorney, the sunlight from the window casting a glow on her old, dark blue dress. The air conditioner hummed steadily, making her shiver, but her mind was fixed on only one thing: Malik, her son. She had just told Carter about Ethan, about the threatening messages, the bruises from the past, and handed over her meager pay stubs to prove she could support Malik. Carter, with his round glasses and sharp gaze, scribbled notes quickly. His tone was calm, but realistic. "We've got a good starting point," he said. "But we'll need more evidence on Ethan's behavior and your stability." Amara nodded, heart heavy. As a black single mother in Willow Creek, she knew the court would scrutinize her far more harshly than Ethan with his wealth and legal team. She clutched her handbag, which held the photo of Malik holding a tomato, her talisman. She thought of his drawings and his dream of becoming an artist, and reminded herself that she had to fight no matter how hard it got. The office door swung open, cutting the conversation short. "Excuse me, Dr. Carter," the young secretary said, sounding nervous. "Someone's here to see Mrs. Jones, and the boy's with him." Amara turned, her heart pounding. Malik ran into the room, his bright brown eyes shining, his curly hair a messy halo. "Mom!" he shouted, throwing himself into her arms. Amara hugged him tightly, tears flooding her eyes, the scent of his children's shampoo filling her senses. She kissed his forehead, feeling the warmth she had longed for the past 3 months. "You're here," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I missed you so much." Malik hugged her back, his little hands gripping her shirt. "I missed you too," he said, his voice sweet and rushed. "My teacher let me bring this." He pulled a crumpled paper from his backpack and unfolded a drawing. Amara and Malik holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun, with the scribbled words, "Mom and me forever." Amara smiled through her tears, smoothing his hair. "It's beautiful, baby," she said. "You always draw me the best." Carter smiled and set down his pen. "He's got talent," he said, but his eyes shifted toward the door as heavy footsteps approached. Ethan appeared clad in a sharp gray suit, his eyes burning with anger. "Malik, get over here now!" he barked, his voice filling the small office. Malik shrank into Amara's embrace, his hands trembling. "I want to stay with Mom," he whispered, loud enough for her to hear. Amara held him tighter, her heart aching. She looked at Ethan, trying to keep her voice steady. "What is he doing here?" she asked Carter. Ethan stepped forward, pointing at her. "This is a violation of custody," he snapped. "I'll sue this office. You have no right to see Malik without my permission." Carter stood up, his voice calm but firm. "Mr. Santos, this is private property, and his teacher brought Malik here at his request. I suggest you leave. Otherwise, I'll be calling security." Ethan scoffed, but his glare shifted to Amara, filled with hatred. "You think you're clever, huh? Dragging in a lawyer, pulling stunts to see Malik? You're not going to win, Amara. I'll make sure of that." Amara held Malik tighter, feeling his heartbeat pounding. She wanted to scream at Ethan, but for Malik's sake, she stayed silent. Just then, the door opened again. Nathan Harper entered, his muddy boots and plaid shirt slightly wrinkled. He scanned the room, eyes locking on Ethan. "Is there a problem?" he asked, voice low and steady. Ethan turned, sneering. "You again, cowboy. This isn't your business." Nathan stepped closer, standing beside Amara, his expression unshaken. "I wasn't talking to you," he said, addressing Carter. "But if Mr. Santos is causing a disturbance, this building has security. Should I call them?" Carter nodded and picked up his phone. "I believe Mr. Santos should leave unless he'd prefer to explain things to the police." Ethan clenched his fists, his face flushed red. He looked at Malik, then Amara, then finally Nathan. "This isn't over," he said, voice low and threatening. He waved a hand toward Malik. "Come on, son." Malik burrowed deeper into Amara, shaking his head. "I want to stay with Mom," he said, soft but clear. Amara kissed his forehead and whispered, "Just a little longer, baby. I promise it'll be okay." Reluctantly, Malik let go, his eyes brimming with tears. Ethan grabbed his hand and pulled him away without looking back. The door slammed shut, leaving Amara sitting there, silent, tears falling. She clutched Malik's drawing, her fingers brushing over the golden sun. Carter sat down again, his voice gentle. "That boy loves you," he said. "That's the strongest evidence we have. But we need to prepare. Ethan won't stop." Amara nodded, wiping her tears. She looked at Nathan, who stood nearby, his eyes concerned. "Thank you," she said, her voice raspy. "Again." Nathan shrugged, offering a soft smile. "Just stopped by to check on you. Carter's an old friend, and I knew he'd help." He looked at the drawing in her hand. "The kid's got talent. You should be proud." Amara gave a faint smile, thinking of Malik. "He wants to be an artist," she said. "I just want him to have the chance." She stood up and tucked the drawing into her bag. "I need to get to work." "Thank you, Dr. Carter. I'll bring more evidence." Carter nodded. "Stay in touch, Amara. We'll get through this together." Amara left the office, and stepped into the Willow Creek sunlight. She held Malik's drawing, her heart more determined than ever. Ethan could threaten her, but she had Malik, she had Carter, and maybe she had Nathan, though she still didn't fully understand his kindness. She rode her bicycle back to Riverdine, thinking about her promise to Malik. "I'll bring you home," she whispered. But as Ethan's face lingered in her mind, she knew this battle was only beginning. Morning sunlight bathed the lush fields of Willow Creek, making the dewdrops left from last night's storm sparkle like diamonds. Amara Jones pedaled along the dirt road toward Riverdine, Malik's drawing of mother and son, holding hands beneath a golden sun, safely tucked in her bag. The warmth from hugging her son that morning at Dr. Carter's office still lingered in her chest, but Ethan's threat echoed in her mind. "You won't win." Amara, a 32-year-old black mother, knew that the custody battle for Malik wasn't just a legal matter. It was a fight against prejudice and a system stacked against her. She gripped the handlebars tighter, determined not to let Ethan extinguish her hope. Just as Amara was locking up her bike at Riverdine, a dusty green pickup truck pulled up in front of the diner. Nathan Harper stepped out, his boots still muddy, his plaid shirt neater than usual. He smiled when he saw her, his gaze gentle but serious. "Good morning, Amara," he said. "Got a few minutes? I want to show you something." Amara hesitated. Her shift started in 30 minutes, and she wasn't used to accepting spontaneous invitations, especially from a white man like Nathan, who seemed to come from an entirely different world. But after everything he'd done helping her during the storm, standing up to Ethan, she felt she owed him a little trust. "All right," she said, stowing her bag inside and asking Diego to cover the opening shift. "But it has to be quick." They climbed into the truck, the air inside filled with the scent of dry grass and old leather. Nathan drove along winding roads, eventually taking her to Greenhaven Farm, 30 miles outside Willow Creek. Amara gazed out the window, amazed by the sweeping fields, horses trotting in the distance, and workers waving at Nathan as they passed. The massive farm had a main wooden house and clean horse stables, a testament to Nathan's success. "This is your home?" she asked, unable to hide her awe. "My home and my work," Nathan replied, pulling up in front of a large wooden barn with expansive windows letting in morning light. 150 hectares, 20 workers. "I started with just 5. Took a lot of loss to get here." His eyes clouded slightly, a silent echo of the story about the wife and daughter he'd lost in an accident. They stepped out, the tall grass brushing against Amara's legs. Nathan led her inside the barn, which was empty but clean, the scent of fresh wood lingering. "I've got a proposal," he said, standing in the middle of the space. "Diego told me about your apple pies, your grandma's recipe, right? I want you to open a bakery here. This barn is the perfect place." Amara froze, as if he'd just said something impossible. "A bakery," she repeated, shaking her head. "Nathan, I don't have money. I can't even cover rent this month, let alone open a bakery." Nathan stepped closer, his voice steady. "I'll invest money, materials, everything. You bring your talent and your recipe. This isn't charity, Amara. It's a partnership. I've seen how you care for your land and fight for Malik. You have the strength to do this." Amara turned away, looking out the window at the green fields. The idea of a bakery where she could bake apple pies like her grandmother taught her, where Malik could run and draw, made her heart race. But she was afraid. Afraid of failure, of dependence, of Ethan using this against her. "I don't know, Nathan," she said softly. "Everything is so hard right now. Ethan, he won't leave me alone." Nathan nodded, not pushing. "I get it. You don't have to decide now. Just think about it. Malik deserves to see his mother doing something she loves." Just then, Amara's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and read the message from Dr. Carter. "Preliminary hearing, set 9 a.m. tomorrow. Come to the office at 8 to prepare." Amara felt her knees weaken, as if the ground had given way beneath her. Tomorrow, she whispered, voice shaking. The hearing. It's happening so fast. Nathan gently took her hand, firm but reassuring. Sit down, he said, guiding her to a wooden bench nearby. Take a deep breath. Carter's the best. You can do this. Amara sat down, burying her face in her hands. I have nothing. Nathan, she said, voice breaking. No money. Not enough proof. How am I supposed to beat Ethan? Nathan sat beside her, his eyes serious. You have Malik, he said. You have that drawing, his love for you. And you have me, if you'll let me be there. When I lost Emma, I thought I had nothing left. But helping you, helping Malik, it's how I found meaning again. You don't have to do this alone. Amara looked at him, silent tears falling. His words touched something deep inside her, the part that constantly doubted whether she was good enough for Malik. But still she hesitated. I don't want to owe you, she said. People always want something in return. Nathan gave her a sad smile. All I want is to see you and Malik happy. No strings, Amara. He stood reaching for his keys. Think about the bakery. And let me take you back. Diego's probably losing his mind because you're late. Amara let out a soft laugh, the first of the day. She stood and slipped Malik's drawing into her bag, her heart tangled with hope and fear. On the way back, she looked out at Greenhaven's fields, imagining a bakery filled with the scent of apples and cinnamon, a place where Malik could draw freely. But when the truck stopped in front of River Dine, she knew tomorrow's hearing would decide everything. Thank you, Nathan, she said as she opened the door. I'll think about it. Nathan nodded. You're not alone, Amara. Call me if you need anything. He left her there, gripping Malik's drawing, ready to face tomorrow. The sky over Willow Creek was bright and clear, but the county courthouse loomed with a cold, solemn air. Amara Jones stood at its gates, the deep blue dress from a thrift store clinging to her exhausted frame. A morning breeze swept by, tossing her hair gently, but her heart pounded, as if trying to break free from her chest. Today was the preliminary hearing, the first step in her battle to gain custody of her son Malik. Amara, a 32-year-old black mother, clutched her purse tightly, where a crumpled drawing by Malik lay mother and son holding hands beneath a golden sun. It was her talisman, a reminder of why she was here. Ethan, her ex-husband, armed with wealth and power, was a formidable opponent. But she couldn't give up. Dr. Carter, her attorney, appeared beside her, his round glasses catching the sunlight. Ready, he asked, his tone calm but serious. Amara nodded, though her stomach was in knots. Let's go, Carter said, leading her through the heavy wooden doors into the courtroom. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than she'd imagined, with worn wooden benches and a faint scent of old paper. Ethan sat in a glossy black suit at the petitioner's table, flanked by two lawyers with gold-rimmed glasses. He glanced at Amara with a smirk that made her shudder. She sat beside Carter, avoiding Ethan's gaze, but his stare felt like a sharpened blade. She thought of Malik. He whispered words from last night. I want to be with you, Mommy. That was her only strength. The judge, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair and a stern gaze, entered. All rise, the bailiff announced. Amara stood, her hands gripping the edge of the table. Case 22847, custody hearing of Malik Jones, the judge said, her voice echoing through the quiet room. Proceed. Ethan's lawyer stood, his voice smooth. Your Honor, Mr. Ethan Santos asserts that Ms. Amara Jones is financially unstable and unfit to provide a proper environment for Malik. We've submitted her bank records showing low income and past due rent. Mr. Santos, a successful businessman, can offer Malik a far better future. Amara felt the heat rise to her face, but Carter placed a steady hand on her shoulder, signaling her to stay calm. He stood, voice measured. Your Honor, we don't deny that Ms. Jones has a modest income, but is a devoted mother. We have evidence showing Mr. Santos has harassed Ms. Jones, threatening messages intended to intimidate her. Carter presented a folder of documents, including screenshots of texts from Ethan. Give up. You'll never win. The judge furrowed her brows, examining the pages. Continue, she said. Carter pulled another document from his briefcase. Furthermore, Ms. Jones has just become a business partner in a bakery venture at Greenhaven Farm, financially backed by Mr. Nathan Harper. This signed contract dated yesterday demonstrates both financial potential and future stability. Amara glanced toward the back row, where Nathan sat in a neatly pressed plaid shirt, offering a calm, reassuring smile. She hadn't known he'd expedited the contract, and gratitude swelled in her chest. Ethan turned and spotted Nathan. His face flushed red. "This is a scam," he shouted, leaping. "She can't open a bakery. She's just a waitress." "Mr. Santos, sit down," the judge barked, banging her gavel. "Counsel, control your client." Carter continued, his tone unwavering. "Your Honor, we also have proof of Mr. Santos's harassment, including evidence that he has been stalking Ms. Jones." He presented photos of Ethan loitering near Amara's property, taken from afar. The sky over Willow Creek was bright and clear, but the county courthouse loomed with a cold, solemn air. Amara Jones stood at its gates, the deep blue dress from a thrift store clinging to her exhausted frame. A morning breeze swept by, tossing her hair gently, but her heart pounded, as if trying to break free from her chest. Today was the preliminary hearing, the first step in her battle to gain custody of her son Malik. Amara, a 32-year-old black mother, clutched her purse tightly, where a crumpled drawing by Malik lay mother and son holding hands beneath a golden sun. It was her talisman, a reminder of why she was here. Ethan, her ex-husband, armed with wealth and power, was a formidable opponent. But she couldn't give up. Dr. Carter. Her attorney appeared beside her, his round glasses catching the sunlight. "Ready?" he asked, his tone calm but serious. Amara nodded, though her stomach was in knots. "Let's go," Carter said, leading her through the heavy wooden doors into the courtroom. Inside the courtroom was smaller than she'd imagined, with worn wooden benches and a faint scent of old paper. Ethan sat in a glossy black suit at the petitioner's table, flanked by two lawyers with gold-rimmed glasses. He glanced at Amara with a smirk that made her shudder. She sat beside Carter, avoiding Ethan's gaze, but his stare felt like a sharpened blade. She thought of Malik. He whispered words from last night. "I want to be with you, Mommy." That was her only strength. The judge, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair and a stern gaze, entered. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Amara stood, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "Case 2847, custody hearing of Malik Jones." The judge said, her voice echoing through the quiet room. "Proceed." Ethan's lawyer stood, his voice smooth. "Your Honor, Mr. Ethan Santos asserts that Ms. Amara Jones is financially unstable and unfit to provide a proper environment for Malik. We've submitted her bank records showing low income and past due rent. Mr. Santos, a successful businessman, can offer Malik a far better future." Amara felt the heat rise to her face, but Carter placed a steady hand on her shoulder, signaling her to stay calm. He stood, voice measured. "Your Honor, we don't deny that Ms. Jones has a modest income, but is a devoted mother. We have evidence showing Mr. Santos has harassed Ms. Jones, threatening messages intended to intimidate her." Carter presented a folder of documents, including screenshots of texts from Ethan. "Give up. You'll never win." The judge furrowed her brows, examining the pages. "Continue," she said, Carter pulled another document from his briefcase. Furthermore, Ms. Jones has just become a business partner in a bakery venture at Greenhaven Farm, financially backed by Mr. Nathan Harper. This signed contract, dated yesterday, demonstrates both financial potential and future stability. Amara glanced toward the back row, where Nathan sat in a neatly pressed plaid shirt, offering a calm, reassuring smile. She hadn't known he'd expedited the contract, and gratitude swelled in her chest. Ethan turned and spotted Nathan. His face flushed red. "This is a scam," he shouted, leaping. "She can't open a bakery. She's just a waitress." "Mr. Santos, sit down," the judge barked, banging her gavel. "Counsel, control your client." Carter continued, his tone unwavering. "Your Honor, we also have proof of Mr. Santos's harassment, including evidence that he has been stalking Ms. Jones." He presented photos of Ethan loitering near Amara's property, taken from afar. Early morning in Willow Creek, the air was fresh, but carried a quiet tension. Amara Jones sat on a hard bench in the hallway of the county courthouse, her dark blue dress wrinkled after a sleepless night. Like a protective talisman, she clutched Malik's drawing of mother and son, holding hands beneath a golden sun. Today was the second hearing where her ex-husband Ethan accused her of alienating parental rights by bringing Nathan Harper into Malik's life. Amara, a 32-year-old black mother, knew this wasn't just a legal tactic. It was a smear campaign, exploiting society's biases against single mothers like her. Dr. Carter, her attorney, arrived a few minutes late, his leather briefcase stuffed with documents. "We have the upper hand," he said, his round glasses catching the hallway light. "Ethan's playing dirty, but I have something to shut him down." Amara nodded, though her heart was heavy. She thought of Malik, of what he had said in Carter's office. "I want to be with Mommy." Would the court hear him or believe Ethan's lies? Nathan Harper appeared at the end of the hallway, his clean checkered shirt and polished boots, a sharp contrast to the stress around him. He sat beside Amara, his eyes reassuring. "You've got this," he said softly. "Carter knows what he's doing." Amara gave a faint smile, grateful for his presence, though a question still tugged at her. Was there something between them beyond friendship? The courtroom door opened, and they stepped inside. The room was still cold, lined with old wooden benches and the faint scent of paper. Ethan sat at the petitioner's table, flanked by 3 lawyers, with a smug smile. Amara sat beside Carter, avoiding Ethan's gaze, though his eyes cut through her like knives. The judge, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair, struck her gavel. "Case 2847B, motion for restraining order due to alleged parental alienation," she announced. "Proceed." Ethan's attorney stood, voice slick and confident. "Your Honor." Ms. Amara Jones deliberately introduced Mr. Nathan Harper into Malik's life to replace his father. We present photographs of Ms. Jones and Mr. Harper at Greenhaven Farm, displaying inappropriate intimacy, which could cause psychological harm to the child. A photo flashed on the courtroom screen. Amara and Nathan laughing together in the barn, his hand lightly on her shoulder. Amara felt her face flush, not with shame, but anger. She wanted to shout that it was a moment of friendship, that Ethan was twisting the truth. Carter placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. He rose, voice composed. "Your Honor, this accusation is baseless. These photos were obtained illegally by a private investigator hired by Mr. Santos, violating Ms. Jones's right to privacy." Carter submitted photographs of Ethan lurking near Amara's land, taking pictures from afar. The judge frowned, examining the documents. "Counselor, explain," she said. Ethan's lawyer stammered, but Carter pressed on. "Furthermore, we have evidence of Mr. Santos's questionable conduct," he said, presenting financial records. "These show large, unaccounted-for transactions, including payments to private investigators and other activities. This raises serious concerns about Mr. Santos's ethics as a father. Ethan shot to his feet, face flushed. "This is a lie," he shouted. "These documents are irrelevant. Sit down, Mr. Santos," the judge snapped, slamming her gavel. "Continue, Mr. Carter." Carter then called Malik to the stand. Amara clutched her hands tightly as her son entered the courtroom, his brown eyes anxious but steady. "Malik," Carter asked gently, "how do you feel when you're with your father?" Malik looked at Amara, then at Ethan. His voice was soft but clear. "Dad yells a lot. He says I can't miss Mommy. I want to be with Mommy. She reads me stories and draws with me." Amara covered her mouth, tears spilling quietly. Ethan bowed his head. For the first time, he looked defeated. The judge took notes, her gaze softening. "Thank you, Malik," she said. The boy ran to Amara and hugged her before being escorted out. Carter stood again. "Your Honor, we request that the restraining order petition be dismissed and an investigation into Mr. Santos's conduct be initiated." After an hour of arguments, the judge brought down her gavel. "Based on the evidence presented, I am dismissing the petition for a restraining order," she declared. "Furthermore, I am ordering an investigation into Mr. Santos's financial records. The final custody hearing will be held in 3 weeks." Amara exhaled, tears of relief running down her cheeks. She hugged Carter and whispered, "Thank you." Outside in the hallway, Amara found Nathan standing by the window. "What did you do with that bakery contract?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It saved me yesterday." Nathan smiled. "I think it will help. You deserve a chance, Amara." He looked at her, his eyes deep and searching. "And one more thing, is there nothing between us?" Amara looked down, her heart racing. "I'm scared, Nathan," she admitted. "I've lost too much, but I don't want to pretend anymore." She looked up, meeting his gaze. For the first time, she felt like she could open her heart. Nathan took her hand gently. "We don't have to rush," he said, "but I'm here for you and Malik." Amara smiled, feeling the warmth of his touch. But then her phone buzzed, cutting through the moment. A message from Diego. Ethan just showed up at the diner, demanding to see Malik. Amara gripped Nathan's hand tighter, knowing the battle was far from over. Morning light shimmered across the fields of Green Haven, carrying the scent of apples and cinnamon from the small kitchen inside Amara Jones's apartment. 2 months after the second court hearing, Amara, a 32-year-old black mother, stood by the kitchen counter, kneading dough for her signature apple pie, following her grandmother's old recipe. Malik, her 7-year-old son, perched on a tall stool, carefully peeling apples with a plastic knife, his brown eyes gleaming. "Watch your fingers, sweetheart," Amara reminded, smiling as Malik proudly showed her a clean slice. "Just like Grandma taught, right, Mom?" he chirped. Amara nodded, warmth blooming in her chest. Today was the grand opening of Amara's Pies, a dream she once thought impossible. She looked around her small Willow Creek apartment. Stacks of apple pies filled the table, ready to be delivered to Greenhaven Farm. After winning in court, she had been granted custody of Malik 1 week each month, and the boy had never looked brighter. Her ex-husband, Ethan, had remained silent since the financial investigation was launched, but Amara knew he still posed a lingering threat. She pushed that thought aside, focusing instead on Malik and the bakery, symbols of her independence and hope. "When's Uncle Nathan coming?" "Mom," Malik asked, sprinkling cinnamon over the apples. 7, she replied, glancing at the clock. It was 5:30 a.m. Her heart fluttered slightly at the mention of Nathan Harper, the white farm owner who had invested in her dream, helping convert an old barn into a warm, welcoming bakery. Their relationship had deepened, though Amara kept her guard up, still cautious after the pain Ethan had caused. Right on time. The doorbell rang at 7. Malik ran to answer it, shouting, "Uncle Nathan." Nathan stepped in with a box of baking tools, followed by Diego, the River Dine chef, carrying 2 more trays of pies. "Backup has arrived." Nathan grinned when he saw Amara. Diego ruffled Malik's hair. "I was up all night baking," he said. "It's a big day after all." Amara hugged Diego and touched them. "You didn't have to do that," she said, but Diego shrugged. "You're family, Amara. Now let's go. People will be here soon." Nathan kissed her gently on the forehead, prompting a giggle from Malik. "You!" The boy teased his eyes, sparkling with joy. They arrived at Green Haven by 8 a.m. The once empty barn was transformed into Amara's Pies, with a polished wooden counter, rustic tables, and a logo on the wall, a warm apple pie, with the words, "Amara's Pies," drawn by Malik himself. Amara stared at it in awe, reaching out to touch it. "You made this?" she asked. Malik nodded proudly. Uncle Nathan helped. They arranged the pies. Malik added wildflowers to the tables. Diego checked the new ovens. At precisely 9 a.m., the first car pulled up. "They're here," Amara asked, heart racing. Nathan took her hand and whispered, "You've got this." Diego grinned. "I advertised all over River Dine. Get ready. It's going to be packed." Customers poured in, Green Haven workers and Willow Creek townspeople. The scent of apple pie filled the air, and laughter echoed. An older woman took a bite and teared up. "Tastes just like my mother's," she said. Amara smiled, pouring her coffee. "It's my grandmother's recipe," she said proudly. Around noon, a familiar black car pulled up. Ethan stepped out dressed in a sharp gray suit, eyes cold. Amara tensed, but Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Want me to send him away?" he asked. She shook her head and breathed deeply. "No, let him in." Ethan walked in. Malik ran over. "Dad, come see my kitchen." He pulled Ethan to the counter where Amara stood. "1 slice of apple pie," Ethan said stiffly. Amara served it without flinching, her gaze steady. Ethan took a bite and paused. "Tastes just like it used to," he murmured. "Your grandmother taught you right," Malik chimed in proudly. "Mom's the best baker ever." Ethan looked at his son, his expression softening. "You did well, Amara," he said, placing money on the counter and hugging Malik before leaving. For the first time, he hadn't issued a threat. "Are you okay?" Nathan asked as Ethan walked out. Amara nodded, smiling. "I'm okay. Okay." She looked at Malik, drawing a new logo at the table, and felt free. As dusk fell, the bakery was nearly sold out. Malik slept on a chair, his drawings scattered around him. Amara cleaned the counter, and Nathan stood beside her. "Thank you," she said, taking his hand, "for everything." Nathan kissed her hair softly. "You did this, Amara, and I'll always be here." Sunset painted Green Haven Farm in a brilliant shade of orange, casting a warm glow over the golden fields. Amara's Pies stood peacefully amid the greenery, yellow light spilling softly from its windows. Behind the counter, 32-year-old Amara Jones, now a full-time mother and baker, wiped away the last crumbs of apple pie. The scent of cinnamon and apples lingered in the air, blending with the laughter of her 7-year-old son Malik, who sat nearby drawing at a table. 3 months after the grand opening, the bakery had become the heart of Green Haven. Farmers, Willow Creek residents, and even out-of-towners came to taste Amara's cherished family recipe in this place. Amara watched Malik with quiet joy. Since the final court ruling, she had been granted full custody, thanks to evidence of Ethan's harassment and shady financial dealings brought to light by Dr. Carter. Though still wealthy, Ethan had stepped back, agreeing to bi-monthly visits. The last time she saw him, he hugged Malik and said, "Take care of yourself, son." The small yet sincere moments proved that even the most stubborn men could learn to let go. "What are you drawing?" Amara asked, walking over. Malik looked up, his brown eyes bright, and proudly held up a picture of Amara, Malik, and Nathan standing in front of the bakery with a golden sun above them, and the word, family, scrawled across the top. "I want to hang it in the shop," he said, beaming, "so people know we belong here." Amara smiled, brushing his curls. "That's a beautiful idea, sweetheart." She thought back to her journey from lonely nights at Riverdine, afraid of losing Malik to the stormy days on this small patch of land, and now this bakery, a symbol of her resilience. As a black mother in Willow Creek, she had once faced wary stares and quiet judgment, but she had proved her worth to others and herself. The bakery door creaked open. Nathan Harper walked in his boots-clean flannel shirt, faintly scented with hay. He held a bundle of wildflowers and smiled at Amara. "For the most beautiful baker in Greenhaven," he said, placing the flowers on the counter. Malik giggled and ran to hug him. "Uncle Nathan, have you tried the new pie yet? Mom made a great one." Nathan tousled Malik's hair and laughed. "Not yet, but I will if you're willing to share." He turned to Amara, his gaze gentle. "How was today?" "Busy," she said, pointing at the empty display. "Sold out before 4. She paused, voice softening. "Thank you, Nathan. I don't know where I'd be without you." Nathan stepped closer, taking her hand across the counter. "You did all this, Amara. I'm just lucky I got to walk beside you." He glanced at Malik, who was adding stars to his drawing. "And that kid, he makes everything worth it." Amara squeezed his hand, warmth spreading through her. Their bond had grown cautious. Cooperation had blossomed into something more profound. Nathan wasn't just an investor. He was someone who understood her pain, carrying his wounds, the loss of his wife and daughter Emma, whom he spoke of with sadness and hope. "You once told me you were scared to open up," Amara said quietly. "So was I. But with you, I'm not afraid anymore." Nathan smiled, pulling her into a gentle embrace. "Good," he whispered, "because I'm not going anywhere." Malik darted between them, wrapping his arms around them and making them laugh. "I want pie," he declared, tugging them toward the kitchen. They sat around the table, sharing a warm apple pie, the bakery lights casting a soft glow on their smiling faces. Malik talked excitedly about his dreams of becoming an artist, how he would draw horses and bakeries all over Greenhaven. "I'm going to draw Uncle Nathan on a horse," he said, making Nathan laugh heartily. Amara listened, her heart full of peace. She remembered her grandmother's words. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what matters most. She had lost a lot. Trust time with her son, old dreams. But she had found something far greater, a new family. Not just Malik, but Nathan too. Outside, the moon rose high, casting silver light over the fields. Diego stopped by bringing more coffee from Riverdine and joining the conversation. "This place is going to be huge, Amara," he said. "Told you so." Amara laughed, thanking him, her friend through the hardest nights. As Malik yawned, Nathan lifted him into his arms. "Time for bed, little artist," he said, carrying the boy to the truck. Amara stood at the bakery door, watching them, her heart brimming with gratitude. She stepped outside and hugged Nathan under the moonlight. "Thank you for believing in me," she said. Nathan kissed her forehead. "You're my light, Amara, and Malik's." They drove back to Willow Creek. Malik asleep in the back seat, his drawing titled, Family Resting Beside Him. Amara stared out the window, dreaming of the future. The bakery growing. Malik painting his way into the world, and Nathan beside her every step of the way. She had finally found her true home, not just in Green Haven, but in the people she loved. Hey friends, where are you tuning in from? A cozy kitchen, a field under the moonlight, or just your favorite sofa corner? Drop your location in the comments. Amara's journey ends here with a brand new family. What did you think of the ending? Thanks for being with us.